Chapter 395. After sending off Su Len, the staff member of the Adventurers Union took the mission list to the back of the hall and handed it to a one-eyed man. The one-eyed man glanced at it and asked in a deep voice, "What mission?" "Ruins exploration. Looking at the requirements, it should be a large ruins." The staff member handed over the mission list. "Ha!" The one-eyed man sneered with a hint of mockery in his eyes. "Ancient ruins exploration? If these ruins were so easy to explore, would we leave them to them? Maybe they're strong enough." The staff member next to him said with a smile. "Then I wish them good luck. Just post it. 2,000 kinner. This is not a small number. We can earn a commission." The one-eyed man shrugged and handed the mission list back. A few minutes later, an important mission appeared on the mission bulletin board. An A-level mercenary mission might not appear in a month, so naturally, it was hung in the most conspicuous place. A-level mercenary mission. Ancient ruins exploration? Recruiting 200 excavators. Recruiting experienced veterans. The minimum reward is 2,000 kinner. The reward is quite generous, but the risk is a bit high. 2,000 kinner. You can take it but not spend it. The mission board quickly attracted everyone's attention, but after seeing that the mission was to explore ancient ruins, many people chose to give up directly. Adventurers and mercenaries who often wandered in the desert knew the risks of exploring ancient ruins. Although the reward was generous, not many people were willing to sign up. There were not many who were sure that they could enter the ancient ruins and come out unscathed. "It looks good. I'm a little short on money now. I can go and talk to him," a rogue hidden in a brown cloak said in a deep voice. 2,000 kinner. A high-level warrior tidied up his armor and got up to check the bulletin board. At noon the next day, Su Len recruited some people. A high-level rogue, a high-level warrior, and a dwarf heavy armored warrior. Including Su Len, there were a total of 4 people. As for wizards and warlocks, there were few spellcasters in the Adventurers Union. Moreover, 2,000 kinner was not attractive to spellcasters, let alone high-level priests and druids. In addition to these 3 people, the 200 workers recruited by Su Len were also recruited. After a simple meeting and discussion, Sullen's adventurer team left the city with a large number of materials on the morning of the 3rd day. 200 workers, 50 camels loaded with goods, and 3 high-level professions, led by Su Len, set out into the depths of the desert. Yellow sand filled the sky. The long team moved slowly in the desert. The speed of the team was not fast. The physical fitness of those ordinary people could not be compared with Sullen's at all. In this environment, the consumption of physical strength was very high. The deeper they went into the desert, the stronger the wind and sand. Sometimes they would encounter terrible sandstorms. The feeling of covering the sky and covering the earth made even Su Len feel scared. Fortunately, there was a strategic map in the system which found sandstorms in advance, giving them enough time to prepare and successfully avoided sandstorms. Of course, compared to the sandstorm, the quicksand was also very dangerous. The sand looked no different from ordinary sand, but once one stepped on it, they would quickly sink. If there was no rescue in time, they would soon be buried alive in the sand. In order to prevent people from accidentally falling into the quicksand, the workers used ropes to connect the people around them. This way, even if they fell into the quicksand, they would be held back by others. Su Len rode back and forth in the team. 50 camels carried a lot of materials. The weather was hot, and the whole team was very tired. "Captain, the weather is too hot. We need to take a rest." A rogue who was scouting outside came to Sullen's side and said, "I hate sand." Valadin the dwarf said in a muffled voice. He was a mountain dwarf, 53 years old this year. He had strong muscles and liked liquor. Su Len only used half a bottle of vodka to become good friends with him. Because of the dwarf's weight and armor, it was very difficult for him to walk in the desert. If he was not careful, his heavy body would fall into the sand. Moreover, the iron armor on his body would often have sand get into it. Coupled with the sweat on his body, it was even more uncomfortable for the sand to stick to his body. Su Len looked at the tired people, then nodded and said, "Let's go to the back of the sand dune in front to rest." can shelter us from the sun. Everyone work harder. We can rest when we reach the sand dune in front. The leader of the craftsmen shouted. After hearing the voice of the craftsman, the artificial people were refreshed and immediately quickened their pace. The human rogue was called Baron. He often wandered in the desert area. His weapons were curved swords and crossbows. As for the warrior, he was a local adventurer named Jane. He was good at two-handed swords. His strength was average, but he was very experienced. About 10 minutes later, the team came to the back of the sand dune and then began to rest. People took out their own food and water to replenish. Sulen took out the sheepskin map and compared it to see if the team's route had deviated. At this time, some red light spots suddenly appeared on his strategic map. There were about 50 people in the light spots, and they were moving quickly toward their current position. Desert bandits? Seeing the red light spots, Sulen frowned slightly. He did not find anyone watching them in the past 2 days. How did these desert bandits find them so accurately? Screech! There was an eagle's cry in the sky. Sulen looked up and saw a goshawk hovering over the team and then flying away. An eagle! Sulen immediately understood. It was obvious that these desert bandits were using falcons to watch them. If the northern town city could tame falcons, then other people could tame falcons as well. Guards! Sulen put away the map and shouted. Sir, what can I do for you? The leader of the craftsmen ran over and asked. Desert bandits are coming. Everyone immediately form a circle around the camels. Craftsman, go into the circle and hide, Sulen said in a deep voice. Desert bandits? Hearing the word desert bandits, the leader of the craftsman's face changed drastically. As someone who lived in this area of the desert, he was very familiar with the desert bandit style. These desert bandits often robbed caravans. Their methods were cruel. They usually rode fast horses and held scimitars in their hands. Like a whirlwind, they rushed up to kill. Their speed was fast, and they did not leave anyone alive. They also did not negotiate. Could be said that they were notorious. Get up! Everyone form a circle around the camels. The desert bandits are coming. Move fast. The team that was resting immediately exploded. One by one, they jumped up from the sand and pulled the camels into a circle. They took out all kinds of bows and spears and were ready to fight. After hearing that the desert bandits were coming, the 3 advanced professionals picked up their weapons and went to Sulen to discuss it. Should we just run away? The rogue glanced at the workers not far away and said. As an adventurer who often moved around here, he clearly knew the strength of the desert bandits. Although there were only 40 to 50 of them, the weakest among them was still at grade 1. Among them, the leader of the desert bandits was a high-grade professional. There were only 4 of them. Facing so many desert bandits was simply courting death. As for the workers, they basically could not count on them. No need. Sulen shook his head. After seeing their expressions, Sulen continued. When the desert bandits come later, you are responsible for protecting the workers. Leave the rest to me. The 3 of them looked at each other. A cloud of dust rose in the distant sky, followed by the rapid sound of horse hooves. Dozens of masked desert bandits quickly approached from the other side of the dune. When they were about 500 or 600 meters away, the desert bandits divided into 2 teams to surround them from the left and right, directly choking off the team's retreat. Kill! The notorious desert bandits did not hesitate at all. Under the command of the desert bandit leader, the rest of the desert bandits waved their scimitars and rushed up. Some of the desert bandits attacked from the side, while the others took out their bows and arrows to shoot. After walking in the desert for so long, I can finally move my body. Speed looked at the desert bandits rushing up and moved his shoulders. Then, he tapped the horse's abdomen and the Pegasus instantly accelerated. The storm halberd also appeared in his hand at this moment. He's crazy. Seeing Sulen rushing directly to dozens of desert bandits, the other 3 advanced professionals' faces changed greatly. The speed of the Pegasus was amazing. In just a few breaths, Sulen was about to meet the desert bandits. The arrows shot by the desert bandits were directly left behind. Clang! Accompanied by the sound of metal clashing, Sulen waved his storm halberd and instantly cut off the head of a desert bandit. Even the scimitar in his hand was broken into 2 pieces. The Pegasus' speed did not decrease at all. Sulen waved his storm halberd and rushed forward. In an instant, the halberd swept across. Accompanied by the whine of the horse and the sound of metal clashing, all the desert bandits who alternated with Sulen were cut down one by one. Storm! Sulen waved his hands and the storm halberd was like a wheel. The power of thunder and storm on the storm halberd also burst out. Streams of chi were like sword chi, instantly killing the 4 desert bandits around him. Then the halberd was waved again and again. Light blades flew out and directly killed the desert bandits in the distance. Quick! Shoot the arrows! Kill him! Seeing that his men had suffered heavy casualties as soon as they came into contact, the leader of the desert bandits panicked and hurriedly ordered the archers to focus fire. However, the arrows were useless against Sulen. He waved his halberd and deflected the arrows that were shot at him. The Pegasus accelerated again and directly dodged the sound of the rain of arrows. Then, it quickly rushed to the remaining desert bandits. Seeing that the arrows were useless, the remaining desert bandits quickly threw down their bows and grabbed their scimitars, ready to attack. Just before the desert bandits could react, Sulen had already rushed directly into them like a tiger in a flock of sheep. Chapter 396. Clang, clang. Blood splattered everywhere, and the sound of metal clashing continued. Sulen rushed into the group of desert bandits like a hot knife through butter. One enemy after another was beheaded. Sulen quickly brandished his storm war halberd like a reaper. Every move he made would take the life of an enemy. None of the dead bodies were intact. Wherever he passed, there were broken limbs everywhere on the ground. This bloody and cruel scene made even the desert bandits, who killed without blinking, feel scared. Some of them even turned their horses and fled when they saw Sulen rushing up like a killing god. But how could Sulen let go of these bandits who robbed him? He waved the storm war halberd and 3 crescent-shaped light blades flashing with thunder flew out in an instant. Half Moon /X3. The speed of the light blade was very fast, and 100 meters was covered in the blink of an eye. The light blade drew a straight line in the sand and instantly hit the desert bandit who was running away. The bandit was cut in half along with his horse before he could react. The remaining 2 light blades directly swept through the gathered desert bandits. Wherever the 2 light blades passed, all the desert bandits in front of them were all cut in half. In the blink of an eye, the light blades swept through the desert bandits like plowing through a hole in a courtyard. Seeing the tragic death of their companions, the rest of the desert bandits could no longer bear the pressure. They screamed and fled in all directions. But it was too late. The Pegasus was like a bolt of lightning, leaving a phantom on the sand dunes. It caught up with the desert bandits in a breath and was easily harvested by Sulen. More than 50 bandits were finally killed by Sulen. Only 2 bandits who Sulen deliberately left behind for interrogation survived. Swoosh! The storm war halberd pierced the 2 bandits' thighs into the sand between them. The 2 bandits who had already become frightened could not help but tremble. A fishy smell wafted over. "Do you want to live?" Sulen looked at the 2 bandits and revealed his white teeth. But in the eyes of the 2 bandits, this was simply the smile of the devil. "Yes." The 2 bandits nodded repeatedly. "Then tell me the location of your desert bandits' lair and where the treasures that you have plundered are. I, Johnson, will spare your pathetic lives. Don't even think about lying to me. I'll make you guys talk separately. If I get a different answer, then I'll let him have a taste of what it's like to live a life worse than death." Sulen smiled at the 2 desert bandits and pretended to say casually, "I wonder how this desert weather would be for drying dried meat. Which one of you is willing to give it a try?" Sir, I'll tell you. I know where Varfa hid the treasure. Please let me go." "Sir, don't listen to me. I'm Veer Fa's confidant. I know all of Veer Fa's treasures. Please believe me." In order to survive, the 2 desert bandits scrambled to tell Sulen the location of their nest and their treasures. Sulen smiled as he lifted one of the desert bandits and asked him to tell him everything he knew. Then, he used the same method to make the other desert bandit tell him everything he knew. After confirming that there were no mistakes, Sulen brought the 2 desert bandits back. At this time, the 3 high-grade professionals had already ordered the workers to clean up the battlefield. All the war horses and weapons had been collected. Other than the dead and injured horses, there were still 32 horses that were intact. After the battle just now, whether it was those craftsmen or the other 3 senior professions, they all looked at Su Luan with awe in their eyes. Even the loudmouth Valadin became more careful when he spoke. I found the location of the bandits' nest. It's not far from here. I'm going to make a trip there, Sulen said to the 3 of them. The others naturally had no objections to this. Then Su Luan asked the 2 desert bandits to take the crowd to the nest of the desert bandits, which was about 30 kilometers away in a straight line. It was a very small oasis. Although it was called an oasis, it was actually a gathering place. There were only a few houses made of khaki-colored rocks in the yellow sand. After entering the room, Sulen was surprised to find that the space inside was very large. It looked like an ancient ruin, but the ruin was severely damaged. Only the underground hall in front of him was left. The temperature of the underground hall was comfortable. There was also a well and an underground river flowing through the well, so there was no shortage of water. This place could be said to be very hidden. As long as the hole was blocked, no one would be able to find it. As long as there was enough food, the desert bandits could live here for a few months. Seeing that there was a water source here, the whole team became excited. They had been walking in the desert for 2 days. When they saw a large amount of water, they immediately ran over to drink and refilled their water bags. After arriving at the nest of the desert bandits, Sulen asked the 2 desert bandits to dig out the treasures they had hidden here. Soon, a pile of gold, silver, and jewelry was piled up in front of them. After looking at it, although there was a lot of gold, silver, and jewelry in front of them, Sulen estimated that it was worth at most 5,000 to 6,000 kinner. He did not believe that these notorious desert bandits only had so much treasure. Looks like you won't cry until you see the coffin. The storm war halberd stabbed into the ground. The hard ground instantly cracked like a spider web. The 2 desert bandits were so frightened that they quickly knelt and kowtowed to beg for mercy. Sir, this is really all the treasure. We didn't hide a single kinner. Sir, please spare us. We've already dug out all the treasures. All the treasures? Sulen snorted coldly. He reached out and lifted one of the desert bandits up. All the treasures? As far as I know, you've been here for at least 10 years. 10 years, this is all you've taken? Sir, please spare us. This is really all we have. The rest was given to the nobles in Halta. The goods we robbed were sold to them. The nobles took half of it, and the rest was used to buy food and weapons. Sulen casually threw the bandit to the ground. He knew that these desert bandits were not lying. Caravans would not carry large amounts of gold, silver, and jewelry for trade. These desert bandits must have needed to sell the goods after robbing. Only the nobles in Halta had the ability to swallow the goods. The reason why these desert bandits had been active for so long without being killed was probably because of the nobles' connivance. Since you've found the treasures, you can go now. Sulen waved his hand and said. The 2 desert bandits' eyes flashed with surprise. They then turned and ran out. However, just as they ran less than 10 meters, 2 arrows flew out in an instant and hit them in the middle of their backs. You! One of the bandits' body instantly stiffened. He looked at Sulen with eyes full of hatred. Then his body went limp and fell to the ground. What are you looking at? It was Johnson who killed you. What does it have to do with me, Sulen? Sulen casually put away the bow and arrow, then put the pile of gold, silver, and jewelry in front of him into his storage space. 5,000 or 6,000 kinner was enough for him to pay the commission this time. After a night's rest in the bandit's nest, the team set off for the desert ruins again the next morning. But this time, there were no more desert bandits. After 2 days, Sulen and the others finally arrived at their destination. There was a landmark here, an obelisk. The obelisk was about 30 meters tall, with a large number of patterns, pictures, and words carved on it. However, the obelisk in front of them was broken. The pictures and words on it had been eroded by the wind and sand. This is it. Sulen looked at the map and compared it with the surrounding environment. He said in a low voice, "Tell the workers to set up camp and get ready to work." Under Sulen's orders, part of the workers set up camp, and the other part began to clean up the sand in the ruins. The ruins had been buried for thousands of years. Sulen did not know the door to the ruins, so he could only clean up the surroundings. The workers took out all kinds of attacks and began to clean up the sand. Because there were 50 camels and more than 30 horses, the cleaning work went smoothly. Be careful, pay attention to the reinforcement. I don't want to be buried in the ruins. The 200 workers began to get busy. It was not easy to find the entrance to the ruins. Fortunately, the leader of the craftsmen was very experienced in excavating these ancient ruins. He knew that there were a few locations in these ruins that had a high probability of being the entrance. The workers began to dig at these locations. Excavating the ruins was not a simple job. Because this was a desert area, if they wanted to dig a passage, they had to clean up all the surrounding sand. Otherwise, the sand would continue to slide down and block the passage. Sulen supervised the workers for a while, then let the others supervise them. He rode his Pegasus and began to wander around the ruins to see if there were any abnormalities. He did not want to spend so much effort to dig out the ruins, only to be picked up by someone else. The sky gradually darkened and the bonfire rose. The workers who had been digging for the whole day returned to the camp to rest and eat. Sulen also rode his Pegasus back to the camp. There were no traces of other people around the ruins. It seemed that, after he exterminated the desert bandits, those spies had left. However, Sulen was not careless. After dinner, the workers who had worked hard for the whole day returned to their tents to sleep. Sulen and the other 3 professionals took turns to keep watch. The temperature of the desert at night was very low, and from time to time, there would be gusts of wind blowing by. Lying by the bonfire, he looked up at the starry sky. The starry sky in the desert was very beautiful. There were no dark clouds in the night sky, and countless stars twinkled in the night sky. Sulen knew that those stars were not just stars, other than some ordinary celestial bodies in the starry sky. Some of the stars were actually projections of the divine kingdoms of the gods. So there was a legend in this world that when the stars in the starry sky fell, it represented the fall of a god. Chapter 397. After eating sand for half the night, it was Bane's and Jane's turn to keep watch. The two sat in front of the campfire, drinking and chatting. Sulen glanced at them and went back to his tent to rest. The night passed quickly. The next day, as soon as the sun rose, the workers were already called to work. The temperature in the desert was very high. If they did a lot of work during the day, it was very likely that they would get heat stroke. Therefore, they had to get up early to work, and then go back to rest when the weather was the hottest. They would continue working in the afternoon when the weather was not so hot. The 200 workers were digging in several places, but after digging to a certain depth, they found that these places were not the entrance. After a day of digging, there were only 2 places left that the leader of the craftsmen had designated. On the 3rd day, the workers continued to dig. When there were only 2 places left, the digging speed was much faster than the previous 2 days. Ah! Monster! Suddenly, there was a scream, and then several professionals rushed up. The workers who were digging on the site ran in all directions, trying to hide from something. For a moment, it was very chaotic. Sulen's body flashed, and the storm war halberd appeared in his hand. He asked in a deep voice, "What happened?" "Mummies. It's mummies," a worker answered Sulen. At this time, he was panicking and wanted to escape. Mummies were a kind of undead creatures unique to the desert. Compared to ordinary undead, mummies moved much faster and had high defense. Although the layer of shroud on their body looked tattered, its defense was higher than leather armor. However, they also had a weakness, which was their low resistance to fire. Sulen left the frightened worker and appeared at the edge of the sandpit in a flash. At this time, A mummy wrapped in linen was about to pounce on a worker. This mummy was still relatively intact, but now its body had completely withered and decayed. The skin exposed under the linen cloth was black and surrounded by a foul stench. The bandages wrapped around its body were yellowed, and the shriveled skin clung tightly to its body. Its bloody mouth was wide open, and there were sharp black nails on its fingers. At first glance, one could tell that it was highly toxic. Su Lin jumped and appeared next to the mummy in an instant. He kicked the mummy away. Looking at the mummy, Su Lin frowned slightly. The kick just now gave him a strange feeling. It was like kicking a hard stone. Bang! The sound of a violent collision was heard. The mummy that was sent flying crashed into the sand, but it did not cause any damage. In the next second, the mummy quickly flipped over. These mummies' shriveled bodies contained an astonishing amount of strength. All workers, retreat. At this moment, a few more mummies rushed out of the hole that had been dug. At the same time, Barn, Jane, and the dwarf warrior also rushed over. After seeing the mummies, they rushed up directly. For a moment, the mummies were forced to retreat. However, at this moment, a powerful aura of death suddenly came from the entrance of the cave. A mummy shrouded in the aura of death rushed out. This mummy was different from the other mummies. It had a pair of red eyes and a metal mask on its head. Its body was obviously much bigger than the other mummies. The sickle-like hands had amazing destructive power. Its body was emitting a strong negative energy. Poisonous mummy. Seeing this mummy, the rogue immediately shouted. The toxic mummy was a powerful monster. Aside from having great strength and the plague effect on their attacks, they also had the ability to revive other mummies. They were very difficult monsters to deal with, and their challenge rating was at level 16. Su Lin moved and rushed up in an instant. At the moment when the two sides clashed, the Storm War halberd felt like it had pierced rubber. Su Lin directly kicked the poisonous mummy away. Su Lin frowned slightly. A strange energy wanted to invade his body, but as soon as it got close, it was directly rejected by his body. Don't get too close to Hector. The poisonous mummy can spread diseases. Barn, the rogue next to him, reminded. Su Lin nodded and rushed up again. With his vitality, the negative state of the poisonous mummy could not cause any damage. Thunder Spear. The powerful power of thunder and lightning appeared on the Storm War halberd. The Storm War halberd was full of thunder and lightning, and fiercely hit the poisonous mummy. The power of thunder and lightning broke out, and the negative energy on the poisonous mummy dissipated. Sullen's whole body turned into a shadow, and the Storm War halberd in his hand kept attacking. For a time, the poisonous mummy's body was full of thunder and lightning. The poisonous mummy was not slow, and it was not much slower than the average rogue. Unfortunately, it was now facing Su Lin, a high-grade legend, and its reaction speed was not enough. The poisonous mummy didn't fight back. After Su Lin sped up, the poisonous mummy was completely beaten up. The poisonous mummy was attacked by Su Lin more than a dozen times in a short time, but it did not even touch Sullen's clothes. The poisonous mummy was extremely angry, and it roared again and again, but there was nothing it could do. While Su Lin was besieging the poison mummy, more mummies rushed out of the dug hole. Bane, Jane, and Valadin fought while retreating. Although these mummies were no match for them individually, they had no choice but to dodge the fearless attacks of a dozen mummies. After all, they were not undead creatures like the mummies. After seeing this situation, Su Lin could not leave it alone. The poisonous mummy had thick skin, and Su Lin could not kill it in a short time. However, the other mummies could not. Fireball. The orange-red fireball quickly took shape, and then flew directly into the mummies that were besieging the three. Boom! With a loud bang, flames rose, and instantly wrapped several mummies around it. The mummy that was directly hit was directly blown to pieces, and the other mummies were also ignited and turned into human-shaped torches. These mummies were like dry wood covered with grease. The flames burned bigger and bigger, and there was no way to put it out. Soon they were burned into a pile of charcoal. The air was filled with the unpleasant stench of corpses. With nearly a third of the mummies gone, the pressure on the three was instantly reduced. Su Len swung his storm battle halberd again, and the powerful lightning energy dissipated the poisonous mummy's aura. The mummy's tall body kept retreating. Just as Su Len was about to rush up and finish off the poisonous mummy, a thick ray of negative energy suddenly flew out of the mummy's mouth. Su Len dodged it. The black ray of negative energy hit the mummy that had just been burned into charcoal. The next moment, an aura of death erupted, and the mummy that had turned into charcoal was resurrected. Undead resurrection. After resurrecting one mummy, the poisonous mummy did not stop. It was ready to resurrect another mummy. Su Len naturally would not give it another chance. His body flashed, and the storm battle halberd with powerful lightning energy instantly hit the poisonous mummy. The poisonous mummy in front of him stiffened, and then the bandages that were wrapped around its body were torn apart, and the aura of death that was gathering dissipated directly. Su Len took the opportunity to attack like a storm, and did not give the poisonous mummy any chance to fight back. The poisonous mummy kept retreating, and the negative energy around its body was mostly dispersed. Then, the storm battle halberd ruthlessly cut the poisonous mummy in half. A wave of aura of death spread out from the poisonous mummy, and then slowly disappeared. The poisonous mummy's body that was left on the ground was instantly set ablaze. The flames rose as if turpentine had been added, and quickly burned the poisonous mummy's body into ashes. Without the poisonous mummy, the rest of the ordinary mummies were easier to deal with. Soon, all the mummies were burned to ashes. Su Len bent down and picked up a purple crystal from the ashes of the poisonous mummy. It was a high-level soul crystal. Su Len would not mind having more of it. Hathaway was preparing to build an army of golems, and it was just right for her. The battle ended quickly, and all the mummies around were killed. However, there were still casualties among the workers. A worker's throat was bitten when the mummy appeared, and now he could not be more dead. Since he was killed by the mummy, there was a strong aura of negative energy in his body. If he did not find a priest to purify it, it was very likely that he would be resurrected as an undead creature. Naturally, there was no priest here. The best way was to cremate him. After killing the mummy, Su Len called the workers back again. The workers did not run far. The desert was hundreds of miles away, and the workers did not have the strength to run back. After dealing with these things, Su Len prepared to enter the ruins. The workers had already dug out a passage. The ruins were very dangerous, and ordinary people would die if they entered. Therefore, they had to clean up the place first before continuing to excavate. Bane, Jane, Valadin, come with me. The rest of you wait above. There should be a lot of monsters in the ruins. Let's go down and clean them up. Let's go. I want to let those skeletons have a taste of my axe, Valadin said as he waved his battle axe. Bring torches. Those undead creatures are afraid of fire. Bane took out a few torches and kerosene and handed them over. We should be the first group to enter the ruins. There should be a lot of good stuff in there, Jane said excitedly. Those who dared to take the risk to explore the ruins were basically here for the treasure. According to the usual practice, the treasures found in the ruins would be divided. Su Len could take a little more, and the others, including the workers, would get a share. It was just that some people had more than others. Be careful when you go down. Don't get yourself into trouble before you earn any money. When the time comes, even if I want to share the treasure with you, you have to be able to get it, Su Len said in a deep voice. Chapter 398. Don't worry, I'm not a rookie. I'm the great dwarf explorer Valadin. The dwarven juggernaut patted his chest and said, and my armor will protect me from harm. I hope so. Su Len shrugged. Soon, the workers cleared all the sand and stones piled up at the entrance of the passage. Su Len nodded to the three and said, let's begin. After that, Su Len snapped his fingers and summoned a gust of wind that blew into the passage. Then, 10 seconds later, a gust of wind rushed out with a foul and decaying smell. Okay, you can go in now. After the foul air in the passage was sucked out, Su Len gestured to the workers next to him. Then, the workers came over with various tools. Supports, pulleys, ropes, torches, hooks, medicine, bandages. After all the preparations were completed, Sullen's figure flashed, and he slid down the passage with one hand holding the rope. The entrance of the cave was about 10 meters away from the entrance of the passage. After Sulen came to the passage, he looked around. With dark vision, he could see normally in the dark. He did not find any danger in the passage. He lit the torch and fixed it on the wall next to him. Sulen then shouted, "It's safe. You can come down now." The second to come down was Bane the rogue. The agile Bane grabbed the rope and slid down quickly. When he was 3 meters away from the ground, he landed firmly on the ground after a light flip. "Hey! Excuse me, I'm coming down." At this moment, Valadin's voice came from above. Bane took 2 steps back and said, "Okay, you can come down now." As soon as his voice fell, a black shadow fell from above. Whoosh! Duong! The dwarven juggernaut landed with a dull thud. "Damn it! I hate falling." The dwarf in heavy armor shook his head, then grabbed his battle axe and stood up from the ground. His heavy armor was at least 50 pounds. An ordinary person would not be able to withstand such a height. "Buddy, you should be gentle. This is the ruins. Don't wake those guys up," Bane reminded him. However, Valadin wasn't too bothered. "Don't worry. If those skeletons dare to wake up, my axe won't mind killing them again." Soon, Jane also came down from above, and all 4 of them were present. Next, the few of them walked into the depths of the passage with torches in hand. There were many well-preserved murals on the walls on both sides of the passage, which recorded the construction of the city ruins. In the corner of the passage, there were many bottles and jars. Valadin seemed to be interested in those jars. He opened them and took a look, only to find that the contents had long rotted, leaving only a pile of black stuff. At this moment, Sulen suddenly heard a rustling sound, like the sound of leaves being dragged on the ground by the wind. "Stop! Something's happening," Sulen reminded him immediately. The other 3 immediately moved closer to the center and stared at their surroundings without blinking. However, after a few seconds, they did not discover any enemies. "Boss, did you hear wrongly? There are no enemies here." Valadin looked for a long time, but no enemies appeared. Sullen's expression was serious. He didn't let down his guard because of Valadin's words. "They're here." At this moment, along with a rustling sound, small mounds of dirt suddenly rose from the ground. In the next second, countless sinister-looking insects with black carapaces rushed out from the sand like a tide. "It's the sacred death beetles. Damn it! Run! Valadin hates insects." Tens of thousands of strange insects rushed over like a tide. Bane, Jane, and Valadin felt their scalps go numb as they quickly ran back. "Use fire." Sulen raised his hand and threw a bottle of kerosene. The bottle shattered and the kerosene instantly ignited. The surrounding sacred death beetles were immediately engulfed in flames. "Yes, use fire." The 3 of them immediately reacted. They grabbed the kerosene and threw it over. Soon, a wall of fire appeared in the passage. The temperature of the wall of fire was very high, but the sacred death beetles didn't have the slightest fear. They directly rushed into the fire. Soon, a series of crackling sounds came from the flames. At the same time, the sacred death beetles also attacked from the walls and ceiling. Although the wall of fire was very big, there were too many sacred death beetles. There were still many sacred death beetles that rushed through the flames. The few of them hurriedly killed the sacred death beetles. However, at this moment, the ground behind them bulged and countless black sacred death beetles rushed over like a tide. "Behind! There are also insects behind us." Valadin, who was using his axe to hit the gophers, no, to hit the insects, turned around and almost dropped his axe as he shouted in fear. "It's over. It's over. I can't go back and marry my little Nasha. I won't be able to see her bucket-like waist and that sexy beard again. I'm sorry, Nasha," Valadin said with a sad face. "Damn it. Why are there so many insects? Kerosene, is there any more kerosene? Quickly throw a bottle over." Jane stepped on a few sacred death beetles that rushed over and waved his hand to sweep away the sacred death beetles that climbed onto his leg. The kerosene has been used up, Bane said helplessly as he chopped 2 sacred death beetles into 4 pieces. He was too excited to throw away the kerosene just now. Get out of the way, Su Len shouted. He turned around and aimed his palm at the tunnel. Burning hand. Scorching flames instantly flew out from his palm and covered the entire tunnel in a breath. The flames wreaked havoc and instantly swallowed all the sacred death beetles in the tunnel. This counts as surviving? Bane looked at the burning tunnel and sighed in relief. The flames burned for close to 5 minutes. The temperature in the tunnel also became hot and the air was filled with a burnt stench. There were a lot of sacred death beetles. After 5 minutes, the insect tide finally retreated. When the black insect tide retreated, a thick layer of burnt sacred death beetles was left on the ground. Hey, it stinks. Valadin stomped a sacred death beetle that was still alive to death. After the battle, Su Len once again lit a torch and continued to explore the depths of the ruins. After the sacred death beetle tide, the group became more cautious. However, they did not encounter any more disgusting insects in the following exploration. After passing through this section of the tunnel, Su Len discovered that the tunnel behind them had been buried by sand. He could only inform the workers above to come down and dig up the tunnel again. Exploration of ruins was like this. Most of the time, they needed to clear the path bit by bit. Fortunately, the tunnel was not buried for long. After half an hour, the tunnel was dug up. Whoosh! Whoosh! A gust of cold wind blew. Su Len frowned slightly. Some strange sounds came from the tunnel, making people feel creepy. After the tunnel was dug up, Su Len saw the scene behind the tunnel. It was a hall with an area of about 2,000 square meters. The entire hall looked like it had been ransacked and was very messy. On the floor of the hall, there were a large number of skeletons. These skeletons seemed to be divided into 2 camps. Many of the skeletons were still fighting each other before they died. Crash! A sudden sound came from the empty hall, immediately attracting everyone's attention. Under everyone's gaze, a blue flame suddenly appeared and the skeletons on the floor began to move. It's the undead. All workers retreat. Su Luen immediately ordered the moment he saw the blue willow, the wisp. The workers hurriedly ran back to where they came from. Crash! 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 The sound of bones colliding could be heard. Over 100 skeletons stood up in the hall. The strength of the skeletons was not high. They were only slightly stronger than the lowest level skeletons and zombies. Their challenge rating was level 5. Barnes, Valadin, and Valadin were all high-level professionals. Dealing with these low-level undead was not a problem. In the previous battle, the 3 of them were unable to use their full strength against the sacred death beetles. However, facing these skeletons, it was like a tiger entering a flock of sheep. Valadin was wearing heavy armor. He waved his axe and rushed forward. The attacks of the skeletons could only cause some shallow scratches on his armor. However, every time he swung his axe, he could smash the skeletons into pieces. Barnes and Jane, who were following behind, waved their scimitars and swords. The skeletons were quickly destroyed. The battle only lasted for 10 minutes. Therefore, the skeletons were dealt with. The hall was filled with broken bones. After dealing with these skeletons, they did not rest and began to clean up the battlefield. These skeletons were very poor. In addition to some broken weapons, they only had some low-level soul crystals. The quality of these soul crystals was very poor and their value was very low. What a bunch of poor bastards! Jane, who was on the side, picked up a soul crystal and cursed. This hall is a side hall. Look around and see if there are any passages that lead to other places. Su Len said as he looked around the hall. Soon they found a closed stone door. Rogue Barnes looked in front of the stone door for a long time and finally found the opening mechanism of the stone door. He pressed the mechanism, but the stone door did not move. It should be broken, Barnes said awkwardly. Let me do it. Su Len took a step forward. A light flashed and instantly hit the stone door in front of him. In the next second, the heavy stone door turned into a pile of soft soil and slid down. After entering the stone door, a small room appeared in front of them. There were a few skeletons inside and some gold items scattered around the room. Seeing these items, the three of them were very excited. Fortunately, they remembered that Sulen was the captain. Although they were envious, they did not make a move. Clean it up. We'll distribute it when we get out. Sulen was not very interested in these things. These gold items had been buried in the ruins for thousands of years. Many of them were shrouded in negative energy. Normal people who came in contact with them might get sick. They needed to find a priest to dispel the negative energy or let them be exposed to the sun for a period of time. Chapter 399. Many people explored the ruins and got a lot of treasures. As a result, not long after they came back, they were seriously ill or even died of illness. Then there was a saying that the things in the ruins were cursed, and those people died because of the curse. This saying made some sense. Some items in the ruins did carry curses, but most of them were funeral goods. Most of them were found by Sulen and the others. Because they had been stored in this environment for a long time, they were contaminated with some negative energy. As long as they were removed, they would be fine. These negative energy auras were actually not strong. They could only make ordinary people sick. For professions, they would at most feel some discomfort. Very quickly, the few of them packed up all of these things. After checking that they did not miss anything, they continued to search in the ruins. The area of the hall was not big. Since they found some hidden rooms again, they got a lot of things after opening them. After a few times, they were very satisfied with these gains. But what made Sulen unhappy was that he did not find the battle soul stone he wanted here. "There's a passage here," Ban the Wanderer shouted. Surin hurriedly took the others and rushed over. The mechanism of the passage discovered by Bane was still intact. At this time, he had already reactivated it. The group carefully moved forward along the passage. As they continued to move forward, they quickly approached a relatively intact building. There were even some moss-like plants here. There were even a few weak magic lamps on the surrounding walls. But because they had not been maintained for thousands of years, these magic lamps had become mottled. It seemed that they would be damaged with a touch. There were also some broken magic crystals around. They were used to transmit energy. They did not expect that, after thousands of years, they were still working. Intruder found. Intruder found. Activate magic energy construct 3. Start charging backup energy. Implement level 1 alert defense plan. As soon as they entered, a cold mechanical voice came from the surroundings. In the next second, a rumbling sound rang out, followed by the sound of heavy footsteps. A 3-meter-tall magic golem made of silver metal walked out. The golem puppet's body was smooth, and the silver metal was very smooth. The whole golem looked like it was made of technology by Sulen. "Be careful, everyone. This is a high-level golem puppet," Rogue Barnes said after seeing the appearance of the golem. "Don't fight him head-on. This place has been sealed for thousands of years. They don't have much energy left to fight," Sulen reminded. In these ancient ruins related to the Arcane Kingdom, they often encountered such steel golems. In the era of the Arcane Kingdom, these steel golems belonged to the city guards. However, although these golems could still move, there was not much energy left in them. Therefore, although these golems were powerful, there was still a way to deal with them. Target found. Lock onto the intruder. Activating level 1 defense alert. Eliminate all intruders. Activate elemental fissure blade. Crack. With a soft sound, Sulen saw some changes in the arm of the puppet golem in front of him. Then, a weapon that looked like a light blade appeared in an instant. Energy blade weapon. After seeing the weapon in the golem's hand, Sullen's expression changed in an instant. This kind of energy light blade weapon was also high-end equipment during the Arcane Empire. This kind of weapon was very sharp. The lowest damage was equivalent to the legendary level. Ordinary armor was no different from paper in front of this kind of weapon. After the light blade weapon appeared, the puppet golem immediately launched an attack. To Sullen's surprise, although the puppet golem looked very heavy, it was very fast. The puppet golem rushed directly toward Jane. Jane did not show any weakness and waved his long sword to meet the attack. Sullen's expression changed greatly. "Get out of the way. Its weapon is very dangerous." After hearing Sullen's reminder, Jane's body, which was waving his long sword, changed his posture instantly. He rolled to the side to dodge the attack. The light blade quickly passed over his head, and a scratch appeared on the hard ground as if it was cutting tofu. Jane, who had escaped the attack, looked back and felt a chill on his back. If he had not dodged just now, he would have been cut in half along with his sword. Su Len waved the storm halberd and rushed up. Clang! The harsh sound of metal colliding rang out, and the storm halberd drew a string of sparks on the puppet golem. Bane's figure also moved, and his body flashed to the side to launch an attack. The dwarven juggernaut also reacted quickly. He was the closest to Bane. When the golem attacked Bane, he charged and waved his battle axe at the golem's thigh. It was not that he did not want to attack other places, but that he could not reach it. Bang! A heavy impact sounded. Sullen's attack did not have a good result. It only left some traces on the puppet golem. Chop! The light blade swept and cut directly at Sullen's waist. It was so fast that there was no time to dodge. Sullen's storm halberd swept, and the light blade and the halberd collided. A huge force came from the halberd, and Su Len used the force to gently retreat. The light blade flickered slightly twice, and then returned to normal. Su Len exerted force on his feet and rushed up again in a flash. The storm halberd carried a powerful force of thunder and lightning and stabbed at the puppet golem. The golem puppet turned around, aimed its light blade at Su Luen, and slashed directly at the enemy's waist. Clang! 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 The storm halberd and the light blade kept colliding, and every time a loud sound rang in everyone's ears. Sullen's expression became more and more dignified. The golem statue's strength was in no way inferior to Su Luen's. After unleashing a series of attacks, Su Luen's figure was forced to retreat again and again. The floor beneath his feet cracked, but it was not as if he had gained nothing. One wound after another appeared on the golem statue's body. Even the blade of light had clearly dimmed. Thunder Domain! A powerful force burst out from Sullen's body in an instant, and then he roared to the sky. Sullen's muscles swelled as if they were inflated with air. Accompanied by the crackling sound of bones, streaks of lightning appeared around him. The light blade slashed again, and Sullen's storm halberd instantly blocked the light blade. At the same time, the halberd deflected, and with a sweep, the sharp halberd directly slashed the puppet golem's arm joint. The harsh sound of metal rubbing against each other rang out, and a serious gap appeared at the puppet golem's joint. Just as Su Len and the puppet golem were entangled, the others took the opportunity to attack the puppet golem's leg joints. These experienced adventurers had their own way of dealing with the golems in the ruins. Although the puppet golem's defense was very strong, it would still cause serious damage in the face of continuous attacks on the same part. Beep, beep, beep. Elemental Fissure Light Blade insufficient energy. Turn off Elemental Fissure Light Blade. Magic Construct Guardian. Switch to combat mode. Just as Su Len and the puppet golem were fighting fiercely, the light blade in the puppet golem's hand flickered a few times and disappeared. Then the puppet golem's arm began to move quickly, and the steel quickly changed. In just a breath, the light blade in the puppet golem's hand transformed into a metal greatsword. Chop! Whirling slash. After the transformation, the puppet golem's greatsword swept across, directly sweeping away the dwarven juggernaut who could not dodge in time. The magic steel greatsword cut Valadin's body, and sparks flew everywhere. Valadin's body was like a baseball that had been hit, and he flew out in an instant. Even the fine dwarven heavy armor on his body was torn open. If his armor was not strong enough, Valadin would have been directly cut in two. Fortunately, it was the dwarven juggernaut. If it were Barnes or Jane, they would have been seriously injured. It could be said that they were not the main targets of the puppet golem's attack. Otherwise, even 3 high-grade professions would have been easily hammered by it. If the puppet golem in front of him was in its complete state, it was basically similar to a Gundam. It even had energy weapons. Even if it had some long-range energy attacks or energy shields, he would not be surprised. Fortunately, this ruin had been buried for too long. No one maintained it, and there was a lack of energy. Otherwise, the puppet golem's combat power would be even more powerful. Clang! The puppet golem slashed at Jane. Jane's face changed. He held the long sword in both hands horizontally, trying to block the puppet golem's attack. There was a harsh sound of metal colliding, and Jane was sent flying with his weapon. The fine steel long sword in his hand was bent 90 degrees. Jane's chest was hit hard, and the chain mail on his body cracked. His body smashed into the wall like a mural and then slid down. If it were not for his heaving chest, Su Len would have thought that he was dead. The storm war halberd swept across, and the sound of metal clashing was heard. Deep scratches appeared on the puppet golem. The alloy craftsmanship of the Arcane Empire was very strong. This high-level puppet golem made Su Len feel like he was fighting a Gundam. After the puppet golem was enchanted with special craftsmanship, its physical and magical defense was very high, and it was immune to most negative states. Could be said that it was very difficult to deal with. In fact, in the face of this situation, heavy weapons caused relatively higher damage. Su Len dodged sideways, and with a turn of his feet, he had already circled to the side of the puppet golem. The storm war halberd in his hand turned with one hand and slashed hard at the puppet golem's knee joint. After dozens of heavy blows, the metal at the puppet golem's knee joint finally could not bear and was torn open by the storm war halberd. Seeing this situation, Su Len would not miss the opportunity. In an instant, the storm war halberd was brandished into dozens of light shadows, constantly attacking the puppet golem's knee joint. Clang, 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 clang. The puppet golem's knee joint was completely broken. Its body shook involuntarily, and its movement speed was greatly reduced. Chapter 400. The golem's body shook slightly, and its speed was greatly reduced. Sullen's figure flashed, and he had already circled to the other leg. Its leg is damaged. Attack the other leg and make it lose its ability to move, Su Len said in a deep voice. The leg joint was damaged, the golem's movement speed was limited, and its attack was blocked by Su Len, so its threat to the others was greatly reduced. Slash! Rogue Barnes' figure flashed and appeared behind the golem. The curved sword in his hand quickly slashed at the golem's leg joint. Among the 4 of them, his defense was the lowest. Like Jane and Valadin, he could still resist 1 or 2 attacks, but if he was hit, he would probably be killed directly. The sharp curved sword quickly slashed a few times at the golem's leg joint, and then he didn't have time to look at the result of the battle. Before the golem's counterattack came, his figure flashed and directly fled. After being attacked by Surin, the golem became exhausted. After several consecutive sneak attacks by Bane, cracks finally appeared on the golem immortal's leg joints. Boom! A huge impact sounded, and the ground under Sullen's feet burst, and his body retreated with the help of the impact. At this time, the dwarf Valadin finally recovered, and then he waved his battle axe and rushed up again. Watch me! Valadin's 2 short legs ran quickly, and in the blink of an eye, he rushed to the front of the golem, and the battle axe in his hand smashed fiercely at the golem's leg joint. But before he could hit the target, a black shadow appeared in front of him in an instant. Duong with a muffled sound. The next second, Valadin flew out at the same speed. Then he slammed into the wall. Even if the dwarf had a strong physique and well-made armor, he was in pain all over and couldn't get up for a while. Taking advantage of the gap between the golem's attack, Sullen's figure flashed and rushed up again. The storm halberd in his hand carried dazzling lightning and hit the golem's leg joint fiercely. As a legendary weapon, the storm halberd's blade was very sharp, and it could easily cut through gold and jade. Coupled with Sullen's terrifying strength, the golem's broken leg joint could no longer support it. Thunderbolt slash! With a flash of lightning and sparks, the Storm War halberd drew a cold light and instantly cut into the leg joint of the golem. Crack! The sound of metal breaking rang out, and the legs of the high-level golem could no longer support its heavy body. After swaying a few times, it crashed to the ground. With one leg broken and the other leg badly damaged, the puppet golem lost the ability to move and could no longer pose a threat to Su-Len and the others. The puppet golem's eyes flashed with a red light. It tried to stand up with its arms supporting its body, but it couldn't maintain its balance without a leg. Su-Luen's figure flashed and appeared on top of the puppet golem. He exerted force with his feet and stomped the puppet golem down. The storm battle halberd flashed with a cold light and pierced towards the back of the puppet golem's head. After a few consecutive hits, a huge wound appeared on the back of the puppet golem's head, and the components inside were destroyed. Next, Su-Len destroyed the joints of the puppet golem's arms. In the end, the puppet golem could only lie on the ground, unable to move. Only its eyes were still flashing red. Su-Len moved his arms. He had consumed a lot of energy in the battle just now. It's finally dead. Barn breathed a sigh of relief and then sat on the ground. Although he wasn't injured just now, he had to concentrate on such a dangerous battle. This thing is too hard to chew. My scimitar was almost scrapped, Bane said with some heartache as he glanced at his severely damaged scimitar. After all, a good weapon was a second life for a rogue. Go and see how the two of them are doing, and then collect the spoils, Su-Len said slowly after resting for a moment. When he heard Sullen's words, Barn's eyes lit up, and he got up to check on the injuries of the other two. Although Valadin the dwarf was hit twice, the quality of the dwarf's armor was really good, and his physique was strong enough. Although he was sore all over, his body didn't suffer any serious injuries. The warrior Jane was a little unlucky. One of his ribs was broken. Fortunately, Barn was experienced in setting bones and reconnected his ribs. Su-Len threw them a bottle of healing potion. This kind of beginner potion could speed up the recovery of injuries. Although it couldn't fully recover, at least it wouldn't affect their movements. Looking at the puppet golem in front of him, he was very interested in this thing. Although it was damaged, the design, structure, and components inside were at the level of the Arcane Kingdom's craftsmanship. He would take it back and let Hathaway study it to see if it could be repaired. Even if it couldn't be repaired in the end, he would still get a lot of useful information. If this golem had enough energy and was in good maintenance, its challenge level would be at least legendary or even high legendary. For example, the elemental Fisher Lightblade. How could an ordinary magic golem be equipped with such equipment? Su-Len put the entire golem into his storage space. Fortunately, his storage space was large enough to fit the 3-meter-tall golem. Su-Luen looked around and even found the broken zeros of the golem puppets one by one. While Su-Len was collecting the golem puppets, the others had already begun to enter the ruins to look for valuable things. After he put away the golem puppets, the three of them came out with a lot of things. Su-Len glanced around and pointed at some magic gems and elemental crystals that seemed to have been removed from something. They were quite valuable. After collecting the spoils of war, everyone began to patrol the surroundings. Many places had been buried by sand and stone, but judging from the remaining buildings, even if this was not the core area of the ruins, it should be a relatively important place. Would an ordinary place have such a legendary golem puppet guarding it? Obviously, there must be a lot of good things here. Su-Len looked around and said, Bane, go call those workers and let them come down to clean up. There should be a lot of good things here. Okay. Bane nodded and left through the passage they had come from. About 10 minutes later, the workers came with torches. These workers were obviously still afraid of their previous experience, but they came under pressure from Su-Len and the others. Okay, we have cleaned up here. There is no danger. Su-Len comforted them and said, Clean up here. When you are done, you can get 20% of the things you find here. I'm sure you've heard of the value of the items in the ruins. Su-Len smiled and stopped talking. Su-Len had become very familiar with the routine of holding a carrot in one hand and a stick in the other. Sure enough, after Su-Len finished speaking, the workers began to clean up the ruins with all their might. The many torches illuminated the ruins very brightly. Sulen looked around and found that this seemed to be a square. The square was badly damaged and many buildings had collapsed. In the center of the square stood a statue. The statue looked like the image of a spellcaster. It was a very powerful wizard wearing a gorgeous wizard robe. He held a magic staff in one hand and a book in the other. His eyes were looking straight into the distance. However, the statue was damaged. One of the arms was broken, and even half of the statue's head was damaged. Sulen went forward to observe and found that there were some words carved on the stone platform under the statue's feet. It was written in the ancient Nesser language. Great Pioneer, Teacher, Star Explorer, Suraran. There were some words below that introduced some of Suraran's achievements. Through these words, Sulen learned some of the history of this city. The Pearl of the Crescent Plain, Nordenham. It's dug. There's a passage here. At this moment, there was a noise. Sulen hurried over. Soon he saw a tunnel that had just been dug. This tunnel was still relatively intact. Bane carefully held a torch and entered it. Look what I found! Barn exclaimed in the passage. Valadin could not help but run in with a torch. Moradin above, we're rich. After confirming that it was safe, Sulen walked in with a few craftsmen. The passage was not long and was connected to a solid stone room. After Sulen entered, he saw golden light everywhere. It took him a few seconds to recover, and then he could not help but exclaim. So many gold coins. Surin was surprised by what he saw. In the small room, there were 3 chests piled up. It seemed that, because of the passage of time, these chests had decayed, so the gold coins in the chests were all scattered out. A large number of gold coins were piled up on the ground, and Barnes and Valadin were holding bags to put the gold coins in. You guys go and help too. Sulen waved his hand. The eyes of the workers behind him lit up. They had been impatient for a long time. When they heard Sulen's words, Jihu immediately rushed up. Sulen did not care about the gold coins. Instead, he looked around the room. In addition to the gold coins, there were many other things stored here, but most of them had decayed because of the passage of time. Sulen tried to pick up a sheepskin scroll, but as soon as he exerted force, the scroll shattered into countless pieces. The other sheepskin scrolls around it also shattered into ashes. Seeing this, Sulen shook his head slightly and then looked for other things. The stone room in front of him seemed to be a treasure room, but he did not know who the original owner was. In addition to the 3 boxes of gold coins, Sulen also found some gems and even a lot of silk. However, like the sheepskin scrolls, they all turned into ashes with a light touch. Basically, except for the metal and gems that were preserved, the rest had decayed and been damaged. Chapter 401. After some inventory, they found a total of more than 14,000 gold coins in this treasure room. Moreover, the gold coins in these ruins were much better than the gold coins in circulation today, both in terms of craftsmanship and gold content. This kind of gold coin could usually be exchanged for 3 ordinary gold coins. The 14,000 gold coins in front of them would be more than 40,000 gold coins after all the gold coins were exchanged. These gold coins would be given out when they left the ruins. With these gold coins, the morale of the whole team was high and they dug with all their might. About an hour later, the workers dug another passage. Unlike the treasure room just now, the passage in front of them was very long and had many gaps in it. Sulen walked in first. After walking in the passage for about 5 minutes, the group finally came out. Sulen and the others came to another area. This area should be the noble area of the city. Although the buildings were badly damaged, it could still be seen that the materials of these buildings were good. Many of the buildings were made of marble. There were many corpses on the ground. At this time, these corpses had become mummies in the dry desert environment. Among these corpses, Sulen also found a few steel golems. The surface of these steel golems was rusty, their bodies were seriously damaged, and their power source had been scrapped. They could only be recycled and sold as scrap iron. At this time, Sulen felt a little uncomfortable and quickly reminded them, "Go back. There is a strong corpse smell in here." The workers at the back immediately retreated. With a snap of his fingers, a whirlwind appeared in his palm. Then he gently threw it. The whirlwind instantly turned into a gust of wind and blew out. Soon, the air here was replaced. Although there was still some corpse smell in the air, it was no longer harmful to humans. Kacha! Kacha! There was a burst of noise. The next second, the corpses that were originally dead slowly stood up. Mummies! Everyone, be careful. Su Len did not care about these mummies. These mummies in front of him were not very strong and were afraid of fire. With a snap of his fingers, a flame flashed. Burning hand. The high-temperature flame appeared in an instant and ignited the resurrected mummies. Then, under his control, the flame flew and spread like a living dragon. In a short time, the hundreds of mummies in front of him were all ignited. Rumble! Just as Su Len thought he could get rid of all the mummies, a few mummies that were burning in the sea of fire were thrown over. A powerful death energy suddenly appeared. Prepare for battle. Sullen's eyes narrowed. He gently waved his storm battle halberd and sent a few mummies flying away. At the same time, the power of thunder and lightning in his body burst out. Ding! You are affected by the power of death. Your life force is being extracted. Your constitution has passed the test. Extraction failed. Ding! You have been affected by the spirit of despair. Your will has been attacked. Your will has passed the test. You are immune to the effects of the spirit of despair. Ding! You have been affected by the land of blasphemy. You have been attacked by the power of blasphemy. Your vitality has passed the test. You are immune to this attack. Suddenly, an evil force appeared, and Su Len heard the continuous sound of system notifications. Then, a strange mummy that was different from all the previous mummies appeared in front of him. Ancient mummy, high undead. Mummies were originally undead creatures that were commonly seen in the desert. Some were mummies that were made, while some were mummies that were produced due to natural reasons such as the climate. Usually, due to the dry air and hot temperature in the desert, corpses could easily become mummies. After being contaminated with some negative energy, the mummy would be resurrected as an undead creature. The strength of these mummies was limited. Although their defense was good and they were fast, these mummies were very afraid of fire. As long as they were careful, even ordinary civilians could deal with them. However, among these mummies, once some mutation or evolution occurred, their strength would be greatly increased. For example, the poison mummy and the ancient mummy were similar. Su Len was now facing an ancient mummy. The ancient mummy was much more powerful than the poison mummy. Most importantly, the ancient mummy was already a legendary creature. Any creature that had the word ancient added to it would become very powerful. For example, the ancient dragon was the most powerful creature in the material world. Although the ancient mummy was also very powerful, it was far inferior to the ancient dragon. The challenge rating of the ancient mummy was level 20, and it had many spell-like abilities. Previously, Su Len had to be judged by the negative energy surrounding it when he was attacked. The ancient mummy was a powerful monster that appeared after hundreds or even thousands of years after ordinary mummies absorbed a powerful death energy. It could be said that it was very difficult to deal with. In addition to these, the ancient mummy also had high undead, negative energy erosion, immunity to ordinary weapons, corpse belt entanglement, fast movement, disease, curse, and more than a dozen other abilities. Of course, this kind of ancient mummy was not the most powerful. There was a kind of demigod mummy that was above the ancient mummy. However, this kind of monster rarely appeared in the material plane. Even if there were, most of them were sealed in remote corners. The creatures stronger than the demigod mummy were the abominations, life witherers. This was a powerful monster that was born in the god of death. Because they died before they were born, the life witherers had a strong hatred for all the living. This kind of monster was the legitimate child of the gods and was even more powerful than the demigod. The difference between them and the gods was that they did not have divinity. An evil energy field quickly spread out, suppressing the burning flames. The intensity of the fire was greatly reduced. Immediately after, a tall and big mummy walked out. This was a monster that was covered in bandages and surrounded by a strong death energy. The scarlet eyes stared at Su Lin. Whoosh! A strange figure dashed over. It was the ancient mummy. In a flash, it passed through the sea of fire and pounced on Su Lin. Su Lin frowned as he smelled a foul odor. This damn mummy didn't care about martial ethics and even dabbled in biochemical weapons. A monster wrapped in bandages rushed out from the shadows. Su Lin's storm war halberd swept out, and a powerful force was transmitted. The mummy's figure was forcibly blocked, and it was even forced back a few steps by Su Lin's weapon. Bah! It's too smelly. He was surrounded by a strong stench. Su Lin almost thought that he couldn't breathe. Wild wind. A whirlwind appeared around Su Lin. This whirlwind had no lethality, and its only effect was to blow away the surrounding air. With the help of the wild wind skill, Su Lin felt much better. Then he rushed to the culprit again, the ancient mummy. Greater haste. Dragon's strength. Bear's endurance. Cat's grace. Insight. Rays of light rose from Sullen's body, and Sullen's speed increased again. He moved and appeared around the ancient mummy, swinging his storm battle halberd. Cleave. Su Lin swept past from the right, and the storm battle halberd hit the ancient mummy. The originally withered body of the ancient mummy had been modified by the rich death energy, and it was abnormally tough. Su Lin felt as if he was cutting steel, and as he attacked, a powerful negative energy quickly enveloped his body and tried to invade it. Su Lin frowned as a chill came over him. The next moment, a powerful force of thunder and lightning erupted from his body, and the dazzling lightning instantly dispersed the negative energy enveloping him. The chill around Sullen's body disappeared in an instant, and the powerful force of lightning turned into countless flashing lightning snakes that attacked the ancient mummy. Large amounts of lightning appeared on the ancient mummy's bandages. Thunder cleave. The storm battle halberd took advantage of the recoil force and spun in the air. Then it struck again with the power of thunder. Lightning flashed on the primordial mummy's body, and a huge hole was cut in the bandage, revealing the dark brown body inside. It was the mummy's dried flesh. Death entanglement. The ancient mummy was pushed back by Sullen's attacks, and its body was constantly attacked by lightning. The ancient mummy roared angrily, but it was useless. At this moment, the ancient mummy moved back slightly, and the bandages on its body wrapped around Su Lin like the tentacles of an octopus. In an instant, countless bandages appeared around Su Lin, directly sealing his surroundings, and then suddenly wrapped around him. Su Lin could not dodge in time, and was instantly bound by a few bandages. The moment he was bound, a cold force tried to invade Sullen's body through the bandages. At the same time, his life force was being pulled and sucked away. Thunder field. The powerful force of lightning exploded from Sullen's body and directly removed the cold force that had invaded his body. The life force that was being pulled away was restored to normal. Since you like to absorb so much, I'll give it to you. Su Lin smiled ferociously and grabbed the bandages with one hand. The violent force of lightning in his body flowed through the bandages and into the ancient mummy's body. In an instant, the two types of energy exploded in the ancient mummy's body. Large amounts of lightning flashed, and strands of negative energy kept spreading. The ancient mummy's body was constantly crackling, and its body was constantly trembling. The bandages that were tightly wrapped around its body also loosened. Sullen's arm exerted force, and he grabbed the bandages with one hand and threw them out. In the next second, the ancient mummy's body fell heavily to the ground. Su Lin did not let go, and he grabbed the bandages on the ancient mummy's body with one hand and slammed it hard. The marble floor in the ruins was full of cracks. Chapter 402. Everyone was stunned by what they saw, especially Valadin and Jane. As warriors, they knew how strong the ancient mummy was. Their faces were filled with disbelief. Although they already knew that Su Lin was very powerful in the battle with the puppet golem, they were still stunned when they saw Su Lin holding the ancient mummy and smashing it around like a sandbag. Sullen's strength was now 50 points, while the average legendary warrior's strength was around 25 or 26 points. Even the giants, who were known for their strength, only had around 40 points. Only the puppet golem's strength could compare with Sullen's. Sullen's entire body was covered with a layer of lightning. Powerful lightning energy burst out. After grabbing the ancient mummy, he used his arm to smash the ancient mummy to the ground again. Bang! 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 Numerous pits appeared on the hard ground of the ruins. Then, the sound of the ancient mummy being smashed could be heard. Along with the trembling of the ground, the ancient mummy was being smashed back and forth. In just a few breaths of time, pits appeared on the ground one after another. The bandages on the primordial mummy's body had also become tattered. Its bones, which were originally as hard as steel, had begun to crack under the continuous heavy blows. Bang! Another loud noise. The bandages in Sullen's hand finally could not withstand the pressure and completely broke. Although Su Lin did not attack again, the ancient mummy was unable to move for a while. Su Lin did not give it a chance to recover. The storm battle halberd in his hand shone with lightning again. The storm battle halberd stabbed down fiercely. Dazzling lightning enveloped the area. The powerful lightning energy made everyone who was dozens of meters away feel a sense of oppression like a natural disaster. Thunder Dragon Strike. Su Lin jumped up and stabbed the storm battle halberd in his hand at the ancient mummy's head. Boom! Lightning flashed. The storm battle halberd directly pierced the ancient mummy's head and deeply penetrated into the ground. Crack! With a light sound, Su Lin slowly withdrew his weapon. A big hole was opened in the head of the ancient mummy on the ground. Whoosh! With a sigh of relief, the power of death on the ancient mummy's body quickly dissipated. Then the body turned into countless dust like sand. A vague shadow appeared in front of Su Lin. It was a middle-aged man who looked quite valiant. Judging from his skin color, he was very similar to the desert people. He smiled at Su Lin and bowed. The next second, he directly turned into a faint fluorescent light and disappeared in front of Su Lin. Clang! A purple soul crystal fell to the ground. Su Lin quietly watched the soul dissipate. Then, he gently waved his hand, and the soul crystal flew into Sullen's hand. Ding! Congratulations, host! You have successfully killed the primordial mummy. You have received 86,300 experience points and the Battle Soul Stone. You have obtained the item Mithril Ingot X1. Congratulations, host! You have successfully killed the primordial mummy. You have obtained a Platinum Treasure Chest X2. Congratulations, host! You have successfully killed the primordial mummy. You have obtained a legendary skill point. Battle of the Desert Ruins. Level Legendary. July 1688 of the Huiwe calendar. You brought a map of the ruins to the desert to search for treasures. After a search, you have successfully found the desert ruins. You have also defeated the poison mummy, the advanced golem puppet, and an ancient mummy in the ruins. Your name has spread throughout the desert country. Prestige plus 15. Ding! Congratulations, host! You have successfully killed 356 mummies. You have gained 356 experience points. You have gained an item, Air-Dried Bandage X20. A series of system notifications rang in his ears. Su Lin slowly breathed a sigh of relief. The powerful lightning energy on his body dissipated, and the pressure around him gradually dissipated. After moving his body, Su Lin lightly jumped and landed on a relatively intact piece of ground. He turned his head and looked at the passage behind him. The craftsmen were like quails, quickly shrinking their heads. Their eyes were fixed on their toes, not daring to raise their heads. Many of them were even trembling slightly. Valadin, the dwarf who always liked to speak loudly, seemed to have something stuck in his throat. He looked at Su Lin with a pale face. The rogue Bane's hand holding his sword was trembling slightly, and his forehead was covered in cold sweat. The warrior Jane's body was also trembling slightly, and his expression was extremely stiff. It was obvious that all the muscles in his body had been stretched to the extreme. Alright, what are you still standing there for? Clean up the battlefield and continue to search for the ruins. Su Len said to them. He then turned around and walked into the ruins. Phew! Bane quietly breathed a sigh of relief. The pressure had dissipated, and it was as if he had been reborn. Suddenly he heard a violent gasp. That almost scared me to death. It was too scary. A worker next to him whispered. Yeah, my heart was in my throat. Haha, our adventurer team has killed the primordial mummy. When we go back, those people will definitely be scared to death. Valadin the dwarf's loud voice rang out. What are you jealous of? That primordial mummy was killed by the captain's stomach. What are you so proud of? Jane, the warrior next to him, said. The captain and I are in the same team. If the captain killed it, it was also our team that killed it. Valadin the dwarf said with a stiff neck. Jane laughed. Then why didn't you go up just now? I was just about to go up. Who knew that the captain was too strong? That primordial mummy was too weak. Fell before I even made a move. Valadin's expression showed that it was not that he did not put in effort, but that the opponent was too weak. Aren't you the one who was so scared that your legs went soft? You're the one who was so scared that your legs went soft. All right, stop arguing. Didn't you hear that the captain just asked us to clean up the battlefield and the ruins? Be careful of the captain coming back to deal with you. Bane the rogue immediately reminded the two of them when he saw that they were about to quarrel. The two of them looked at each other, then snorted and turned their heads away. After Su Len killed the primordial mummy, he began to search the area. This was the noble area of the ruins, and also the essence of the ruins. Although it was very dilapidated and there was a big battle, there were still many good things left behind. At that time, this should be the place where the fiercest battle took place. There were broken walls everywhere. Many of the beautiful and solid marble buildings had collapsed. There were traces of battle everywhere. There were also many dead bodies on the ground. Many of the corpses had been resurrected under the effect of the death energy. However, the strength of these undead was not high. They were far worse than the primordial mummy. Wherever Su Len went, these low-level undead fell in groups. Even if there was a poisonous mummy that occasionally appeared, it would be taken care of by him in a few moves. Sullen's main purpose here was to find the Battle Soul Stone. He was going to build the Hero's Spirit Pagoda in the Beifeng Principality. He needed 2 Battle Soul Stones. When he killed the primordial mummy, the system rewarded him with 1. Now he was short of 1. Battle Soul Stones were generally born in large battlefields. The battle in this underground ruin was very fierce, and the number of casualties was likely to be as high as hundreds of thousands. Su Len also found that the main reason for the destruction of this ruined city was the war. In a battlefield of this level, the probability of a Battle Soul Stone being born was very high. The area of the noble area was not small. Su Len spent some time only to walk around more than half of it. At this time, he suddenly felt a strange soul fluctuation, which was very similar to the fluctuation of the Battle Soul Stone he had seen before. Su Len paused, then closed his eyes and carefully felt the location of this energy. After a few minutes, Su Len suddenly opened his eyes, moved his body, and walked to the side. This was a completely destroyed palace. Collapsed marble pillars, broken decorations, and a large number of corpses were left on the ground. It was no different from the other areas. Su Len gently waved his storm war halberd, and a gust of wind blew, blowing the corpses up. A sparkling and translucent red crystal-like stone was lying on the ground. Su Len gently waved his hand, and the strange crystal flew into Sullen's hand. His luck was not bad. It was indeed a Battle Soul Stone. Su Len flipped his palm and put the Battle Soul Stone into his storage space. After obtaining the Battle Soul Stone, Sullen's purpose this time was completed. He did not continue to explore. The noble area was the essence of this ruin. According to the calculations of the previous ruins explorers, the noble area's harvest could account for more than 70% of the entire ruin. He did not plan to explore the remaining areas. The main reason was that the cost was high and the harvest was just passable. And there was another reason. There seemed to be something sealed under the ruins. When Su Len was fighting with the ancient mummy, He had already felt that there was a powerful, decaying evil force under the ruins. That force was more powerful than the ancient mummy that Su Len had killed. When he came to the desert country, Su Len had inquired in advance. Many of the ruins held the sealers, prisoners, and test subjects of the arcane kingdom. Among them, there were some demon lords and even ancient evil creatures. The period of the arcane kingdom was the most glorious period of the Arcanist civilization. They even dared to go to war with the gods. They had studied the gods, divinity, and other powers. They had begun to touch the realm of the gods. There was nothing they did not dare to do. Those great arcanists imprisoned the demon lords, imprisoned the evil gods, captured the abominations, and even some taboo research. More than 80% of the taboo knowledge that had been passed down was researched during the period of the Arcane Kingdom. It could be seen how bold the group of arcanists was. Back then, they had almost overturned the gods. Who knew if there was an abomination, a demon lord, or an evil god sealed in this ancient ruin? With sullen strength, he might not be able to escape unscathed from these monsters. Maybe when he broke through the high-level legendary realm and stepped into the realm of demigod, he would talk to those sealed monsters again. Chapter 403. Su Len returned to the hall and left the VIP area in the ruins to the others to continue searching. Su Len began to check his harvest. Including the one he just killed, he had killed a total of 3 poisonous mummies and 1 primordial mummy. The poisonous mummy gave Su Len more than 9,000 experience points, 3 gold treasure chests, and a few high-tier soul crystals and jewels. The primordial mummy gave him 2 platinum treasure chests. Su Len now had a total of 5 treasure chests. As for the puppet golem, it did not give him anything. However, the puppet golem itself was a big harvest. If it could be developed, the high-end combat power of the Beifeng Principality would soar. However, it was not easy to develop such a high-end technology. He could only let Hathaway do it slowly. Su Len opened his inventory and found 3 gold treasure chests. He chose to open them directly. The system's cold voice rang in his ears. "Congratulations! You have opened a gold treasure chest. You have obtained an item. Arcane card. Congratulations! You have opened a gold treasure chest. You have obtained 3 skill points. Congratulations! You have opened a gold treasure chest. You have obtained the skill Vampiric Touch." As the light faded, 3 items appeared in front of Su Len. He began to check the attributes of the 3 items. Arcane cards, also known as the cards of wisdom or the cards of miracles. These are the treasures left behind by the Arcane Kingdom. Each arcane card has a unique magic power. A complete arcane card has 108 cards. They may bring you good luck, but they may also bring you disaster. Currently owned cards. 1 of 108. Is this a card draw? Sullen's face darkened. In the many games that he had played in his previous life, almost all of them had this card draw game that made the players cheer for the lucky king and the non-players chop off their hands. Generally, it was fine if you had a conscience. There was the so-called guarantee of 10 consecutive draws. However, there were some that were screwed. You might not even get an SSR card even if you drew 100 cards. As for Su Len, he belonged to the kind of people who could only draw 10 consecutive draws. As for the miracle of drawing a single card, he had never seen one before. However, ever since he came to this world, his luck seemed to have improved. Thinking of this, Su Len took out the arcane card and prepared to give it a try. The cards that had not been activated were the same on both sides. These cards were made of an unknown alloy and had a unique hexagram mark and the Eye of Truth insignia on them. Before it was activated, no one knew what this arcane card represented. This kind of arcane card could only be activated by inputting energy according to the patterns on the card. Su Len flipped through the card and confirmed that there were no problems. He then picked up the card and tried to inject energy. Su Len picked up the card and tried to inject energy into it. A faint light appeared. After the arcane card in Sullen's hand absorbed the energy, a ripple of energy appeared. Then, an image appeared in the center of the card. The first image that appeared was a library filled with books. This scene surprised Su Len. This meant that this card was most likely a knowledge card. He could learn a spell or obtain some advanced knowledge through this card. Then the door opened. An ancient alchemy rune appeared and sank into Sullen's body. Focus! A magical force surged into Sullen's body and instantly merged with it. After Sullen's brain experienced a swelling pain, a cool feeling appeared. It felt like he had been concentrating on one thing for a long time and was mentally exhausted. Finally, after the cool feeling appeared, the fatigue gradually disappeared. The system's voice rang in his ears again. Congratulations! The arcane card, Focus, has been activated. You have awakened the personal ability, Focus. Your mental strength has increased a little. Energy modification completed. At this moment, Sulen felt that his mind was very clear. It seemed that after a long period of hard work, his mental strength had been tempered. His mental strength had become stronger. Focus, personal talent. After a long period of hard work, this has greatly strengthened your mental strength and knowledge. Whether it's learning, fighting, or doing other things, you will be more serious. Your learning efficiency will increase by 15% and the chances of being sneak attacked will be reduced. Sulen raised his eyebrows. This time, he had drawn a personal talent. His luck was really good. This kind of talent card was relatively rare. Among the 108 cards, only a few had this effect. For example, the effect of the Dragon Disciple card could directly give one the power of a Dragon Disciple. The card could increase strength to 20 points, constitution to 18 points, and charm to 20 points. It could also be compatible with the previous profession. In other words, this card could directly allow one to take on a profession. The person who obtained the Dragon Disciple card was a wizard. After taking on the profession of a Dragon Disciple, he became very powerful and later broke through to the legendary level. It was said that he had now left this realm to travel to other realms. Sullen's card was only a low-level one among the cards that increased attributes and talents, but overall it was still very good. In addition to this arcane card, Sulen also received 3 skill points and a skill, Vampiric Touch. The skill points were also a good reward. Sulen looked at the description of Vampiric Touch. Vampiric Touch, the system's bloodthirst skill fused with the rules of this world. When attacking an enemy, the user can absorb the enemy's energy or life force and convert it into their own. Effect. After using, the user absorbs 50 energy or life force and increases the user's HP by 50 points. Effect lasts for 1 minute and disappears after absorbing 50 energy or life force. This skill might be a godly skill for others, but for Sulen who had physical healing, this skill was a little useless. 50 points of HP was roughly equivalent to a medium-level injury. Sullen's physical healing could recover about the same amount of HP. After looking at it, this skill only required 1 skill point. Sulen thought for a while and learned this skill. After opening the 3 gold treasure chests, Sulen opened the remaining 2 platinum treasure chests. Along with a burst of light and shadow effects, the system's familiar voice sounded in his ears. Congratulations, host. You have opened the platinum treasure chest. You have received the item, 9 Heavens Black Iron *1. Congratulations, host. You have opened the platinum treasure chest. You have received the item, self-created hero template *1. After hearing the system's prompt, Sullen's face showed a hint of joy. This time, he was very lucky to open the treasure chest. The 9 Heavens Black Iron could be considered a godly weapon in the game. In the game, not only could it increase one's strength, but it also had the effect of recovering one's life force. Moreover, it also had the Iron Wall talent. Could be said that it was very cost-effective. However, after coming to this world, he did not know what the attributes of this item would be. Sulen could not wait to check the description of the 9 Heavens Black Iron. 9 Heavens Black Iron. A magical metal that fell from the sky. It has incredible power. It is an extremely precious material that can be used to forge godly weapons. The 9 Heavens Black Iron contains a magical power. After wearing it, one will receive a buff. Strength +10, Constitution +10, and the additional innate skills, Regeneration and Iron Wall. The buff will be ineffective if one's attributes exceed 50. F***CK. 10 points of strength and 10 points of constitution. After seeing the buff effect of the 9 Heavens Black Iron, Su Lin was surprised. One should know that in this world, an ordinary adult male without training would only have 7 or 8 points of constitution. However, this 9 Heavens Black Iron could actually increase both constitution and strength by 10 points. This buff could instantly allow an ordinary person to surpass a knight. As for the buff effect, it was also very practical. Su Lin's strength had reached 50 points, and his constitution had reached 47 points. This 9 Heavens Black Iron did not give him much of a buff. As for the innate skills, Su Lin already had them. The innate skills of this item could not be stacked. However, although it was not very useful to him, this 9 Heavens Black Iron was actually a material for forging godly weapons. Godly weapons, as the name implied, were powerful weapons created by the gods. Generally speaking, legendary weapons and legendary magical items were the next step up and were high-tier legendary items. It was still more difficult to become a godly weapon. When the gods forged godly weapons, they would need to inject some divinity into them. Only then could the weapons be considered godly weapons. One should know that divinity was very precious. Using one's own power to forge godly weapons was a very extravagant act. It was also because of this that the gods rarely forged godly weapons. After all, every time they forged a godly weapon, it was equivalent to weakening a part of their own power. This was also the reason why godly weapons were so powerful. The 9 Heavens Black Iron in front of him could be used to forge godly weapons. In other words, he could forge godly weapons without using a small amount of divinity. This function alone was enough to make all the wizard organizations and churches on the continent fight over it. One should know that the godly weapons created by the gods were restricted by their alignment. For example, if a god from the lawful good alignment created a godly weapon, then the godly weapon's usage requirement would be lawful good. There were quite a number of godly weapons in the multiverse. Many powerful gods had left behind godly weapons. Many gods would inject their own rules and divine power into the godly weapons, and then give it to their believers to use. This kind of godly weapon could only be used by the gods themselves and their believers. Of course, there were also some godly weapons without owners that were lost in the multiverse. Many of those godly weapons were left behind by the fallen gods. There were very few godly weapons in the multiverse that did not have alignment restrictions. The Flail of Time was one of them. This was also one of the reasons why this godly weapon was so popular. Su Lin still did not have the ability to forge godly weapons, so this piece of 9 Heavens Black Iron could only be temporarily hidden. Before he had the power to protect this material, he did not plan to take it out. He would keep it in his storage space. Who knew if there would be a high-tier wizard or god who had nothing better to do than to do divination? His storage space could block this kind of spell. Chapter 404. Su Lin's system had the ability to block prophecies, so he did not have to worry about being discovered by others. As for creating divine artifacts, he did not have the ability to do so yet. After putting away the 9 Heavens Black Iron, Su Lin took the last item, the self-created hero template. Su Lin was already very familiar with this item. It could turn an ordinary person into a hero. He had not thought of who to give this item to, so he would keep it for the time being. In addition to these items, Su Lin had obtained a legendary skill point when he killed the ancient mummy. After thinking for a while, Su Lin used the legendary skill point on his advanced regeneration talent. Are you sure you want to use the legendary skill point on the talent, Advanced Regeneration? Yes. After Su Lin confirmed, the legendary skill point on the system panel slowly disappeared. Then, a strong force surged into Su Lin's body. At this moment, his body seemed to be torn apart. Every inch of his body seemed to have been beaten countless times and then reconstructed. Intense pain came from his body, and in the midst of this pain, a powerful vitality appeared in his body. Every cell in his body seemed to be awakened, and a powerful life energy gathered in his body. At this moment, his body seemed to be reborn. A row of data appeared. Advanced Regeneration has evolved into Legendary Regeneration. Your life force has increased. Your recovery ability has increased. You have obtained broken limb rebirth. Detected that the host has legendary strength. You have obtained the special talent, immortality, legendary regeneration. After arduous training, you have finally broken through the limits of mortals and entered the realm of transcendence. After obtaining legendary regeneration, unless the heart or head is severely damaged, more than 50% of the heart or head is damaged. The other parts will quickly recover after being injured. Broken limb rebirth. After the body is damaged, as long as there is a certain amount of time, your body will regenerate. Phew! Su Lin slowly opened his eyes and felt the changes in his body. Although there did not seem to be much change on the surface, Su Lin knew that his body's vitality had become very high. With legendary regeneration, not only had Sulin's recovery ability been greatly improved, but his life force had also been greatly increased. If his lifespan was 1,000 years in the past, it had now increased to 1,500 years. In addition to legendary regeneration, Su Lin also obtained another special talent, immortality. Immortality did not mean that Su Lin could live forever, but that his body would not show signs of aging while he was alive. Immortality, special talent, requires the prerequisites of legendary strengthening and legendary regeneration. With the immortality talent, your body will never age and your physical fitness will always be at its peak. Note: you are immune to aging spells. After seeing the gift of immortality, Sulin's face showed a touch of joy. This gift was actually eternal youth. Although legendary professions had a long lifespan, they would still age, but the speed of aging was much slower than those below the legendary level, especially physical professions. For example, a legendary warrior had a lifespan of 200 years. Under normal circumstances, his combat power would be maintained at the peak of 130 to 150 years old. After the peak period, his combat power would slowly decline. In the last 10 years, his strength would even fall below the legendary realm. After Su Lin obtained the immortality talent, he would no longer be limited by aging. After moving his body, Su Lin took out a sharp knife and slashed it on his arm to observe the speed of his recovery. The sharp knife slashed and a shallow wound appeared on his arm. With legendary toughness, his body's defense had become very high. Ordinary knives could no longer hurt him. The knife Su Lin used was a magic item with sharpness +1 and armor penetration +1. Blood flowed out, but after a moment, the wound began to scab. After a while, the scab completely fell off with a gentle touch. The wound just now had disappeared, and the skin was as smooth as new. After checking his body, Su Lin left the room. Next was the rest of the loot in the ruins. It took a total of 3 days to clean up the ruins. The main reason was that many places had been buried by sand and needed to be dug up again. The ruins were not very big. In the end, Su Lin and the others collected all the valuable things they could find. In the end, a small mountain of treasure appeared in front of everyone. Looking at the mountain of gold in front of him, Sulin's eyes were dazzled by the golden light. The others around also stared at the mountain of gold in front of them, greed flashing in their eyes. How much is there in total? Su Lin looked at the mountain of gold in front of him and asked. 63,500 gold coins, more than 1,000 pieces of jewelry, gold, and so on. There are 326 magic gems, magic crystals, and relatively well-preserved magic items, etc. No one is hiding anything, right? Su Lin said casually. No, we've checked all of them. Barn grinned. Su Lin knew very well that those workers might not have a secret stash, but it was not certain whether the 3 professionals had a secret stash. However, Su Lin did not mind. The most precious things in the ruins were basically in his storage space. The rest were only gems and gold. Moreover, the 3 of them did not have a space bag. How much could they take? Then we'll divide it according to what we said before. All the workers will get 20%, I'll take 35%, and the 3 of you will each get 15%, Su Lin said directly. Agreed. You've contributed the most in this ruin. We have no problem with you taking the biggest share. Bane nodded. I agree too. You're too generous. Valadin and Jane nodded. Out of the 63,500 gold coins, Su Len took 22,000, Bane and the other two professionals each got 9,500, and the rest of the workers got 65 each. Su Len did not take the gold, jewelry, and magic items. These things were of no use to him, but he took all the magic gems. The more than 1,000 pieces of gold were distributed to the three of them, and the magic items were also distributed to them. However, there were only a few items that were still in good condition and could be used. Su Len and the three professionals took out another 2,000 gold coins to compensate the others. The division of the treasure was successfully completed. 1 gold coin from the Arcane Empire era in the ruins could be exchanged for 3 kinner. After this trip, even the craftsmen had almost obtained more than 200 kinner. For ordinary people, this was a wealth that they might not be able to accumulate in their lifetime. After the distribution of the treasure, Su Len and the others left the underground ruins happily. After everyone left, Su Len gently snapped his fingers. The sand and stones beside him quickly slid down and the ruins were resealed. After that, Su Len also used mud to stone to turn the sand and stones into real stones and completely sealed the ruins. There was no delay here. Everyone was eager to go back. After getting rich overnight, they all wanted to go back and enjoy themselves. Who would want to work again? Su Len, I reckon that after this trip, the three professionals might even consider retiring directly. As for adventure, if it was not for money, who would be willing to dance on the edge of a knife? Many mercenaries and adventurers would turn around and leave the business after accumulating enough money. After all, if you were not careful in this business, you might lose your life before spending all your money. Then the hard-earned money would become someone else's. The return trip was faster than when they came. 2 days later, Su Len and the others returned to Halta. Back to Sullen's trip to the Desert Kingdom. In the royal city of Florence, in a beautifully decorated palace, Daniel was sitting in his chair with a distressed look. As the third heir to the royal family of Henry, he was quite favored in the palace. However, it was still difficult for him to inherit the throne. Since the beginning of the new year, His Majesty's body had some problems. All kinds of diseases kept appearing. Even if he invited the Bishop of the Church of Life to help treat the disease, the effect was not good. Everyone knew that King Henry's life was coming to an end. This was not good news for Daniel. If his father had been alive, then he would have had time and opportunity to go further. However, his father, His Majesty Henry, was not as energetic as before. Even if he wanted to pass the throne to him, it was unlikely that he could do it. As the third heir to the Kingdom of Florence, he did not have a good relationship with his two brothers. It should be said that it was very bad. No matter which one of them took the throne in the end, what awaited him would not be good. If it was better, they would give him a remote piece of land and kick him back. If his two brothers were more evil, it wouldn't be strange if they directly sent people to kill him on his way to his fief. In the end, they would push the blame to the bandits and he would pretend to be inconsolable, and this matter would be over. No one would pay attention to a dead prince. In the quiet side hall, the palace guards had all retreated. In the empty hall, only Daniel sat there quietly. "Dear, are you waiting for me?" A frivolous laughter sounded, and then a hazy figure appeared in the hall. The figure swayed gently, and a large number of ripples appeared in the surrounding space like the water surface. Finally, the ripples disappeared, and a charming and seductive figure appeared there. This woman was stunningly beautiful. Her every move was full of temptation. Her impressive figure was only covered by a few pieces of cloth. At first glance, one could not take their eyes off her. Her body was also covered by a layer of transparent gauze, which made her even more seductive. This was a peerless beauty. Chapter 405. Daniel was not surprised at all by the sudden appearance of the woman in the hall. It was as if he knew she would come. The woman in front of him gave off a seductive aura like a succubus. However, a wizard who was well versed in the lower planes and had mastered the study of demons and ghosts would be able to tell that the woman in front of him was not a succubus. Instead, she was a devil from the hell of Bator. Pleasure devil. This creature with the appearance of a woman had soft amber hair and purple eyes that rippled like a pool of water. Her clothes revealed her soft breasts and back. A smile appeared on her lips. Her plump red lips were slightly pouted as if she was waiting for a kiss, or as if she was pouting coquettishly to her lover. Deep in her eyes, there was a hint of playfulness, like a cat playing with a mouse. Pleasure devils were the evolved form of lustful devils. They were devils who were very good at disguising themselves. Their favorite thing to do was to seduce the followers of the gods into depravity. They did not like hell. To them, the material plane was full of ripe fruits that could be harvested. Pleasure devils would not feel guilty about seducing any man or woman of any race. It was their duty to collect fresh souls. They liked to seduce mortals into depravity. The more noble a person was, the more they wanted to seduce them. Pleasure devils liked to use all kinds of methods to make people fall step by step. Then, when the fruit was ripe, they would harvest it. Pleasure devils had the bloodline of fallen angels. In fact, the earliest devils all had the bloodline of angels. It was said that the devils in the hell of Bator were originally angels. During the war between the ancient gods of order and the bottomless abyss, some of the angels had been infected by the power of the lower planes because they had been fighting against the abyss for a long time. In the end, they fell and became devils. My dear Daniel, I haven't seen you for so long. I've missed you so much. The pleasure devil smiled seductively. Her eyes rippled, and her red lips curved into a beautiful arc. I'm reminded of the wonderful times we had together. You were so strong, so charming. As she spoke, the pleasure devil swayed her body and walked over. Her body was faintly discernible under the thin veil. It made one's breath quicken involuntarily. Daniel's expression was not very good. He coldly glanced at the flirtatious pleasure devil and said in a deep voice, "Enough, stop pretending. We're even now." "Of course we're even, but I like you, little cutie." A frivolous voice sounded. The pleasure demon walked gracefully to Daniel. Then, her body flashed and her alluring body instantly wrapped around Daniel's body like a beautiful snake. I still clearly remember the wonderful times we spent together. At that time, you called me little sweetie. Now you're so fierce to me. I'm really sad. Daniel's breathing was obviously a little hurried, and his face had turned a little red. His body had also undergone some changes, but his rationality still prevailed. Daniel took a deep breath and forcefully suppressed the evil thoughts in his heart as he said in a deep voice, "Put away that trick of yours. It's useless against me." The pleasure devil watched Daniel's actions with great interest. She reached her hand into his collar and stroked his chest back and forth. She even stuck out her tongue and licked his neck and earlobe a few times. Just as she was about to go deeper, Daniel suddenly broke free from her embrace. "Angry? Seeing how uncomfortable you are, I want to help you," the pleasure devil said with some grievance. Daniel's body was a little stiff. He slowly turned around and took a few deep breaths to calm himself down. "Help me? How do you want to help me? Or what do you want?" It was not easy to get help from the demons. These guys who liked to play with people's hearts would not help others for no reason. Moreover, they would also leave behind various traps when they helped you. Once you were careless, they would easily take away all the benefits, including your life. The demon's favorite thing to do was to use various means to exploit the loopholes in a contract. For example, some inconspicuous patterns on a contract were very likely to be traps. In the ancient arcane kingdom, the arcanists specially produced several books, How to Sign a Contract with the Demons and The Demon's Trap. Just as famous as these books was the Guide to the Wishing Spell. When using the wishing spell, one would need to reach an agreement with the jinn. If it was just a simple description, the jinn would intentionally misinterpret it. One would need to use a more rigorous description to plug up all the loopholes. The pleasure devil tilted her head, wearing an alluring smile on her beautiful face. She propped up her chin with one hand and propped it up with the other. She looked at Daniel with great interest. "Souls, excellent souls. Although you've provided quite a number of souls, to be honest, the quality of those souls isn't very good. It can be said that their souls can't be polished at all. They are also unable to release that enchanting soul light. This time around, I hope that you can provide better souls. Impossible, Daniel said coldly. Previously, in order to provide you with the souls you needed, I almost handed over all the prisoners in the royal capital's prison to you. What else do you want? Daniel's countenance was grim. A powerful aura rose from his body, and his abilities as a conferred knight were unleashed in an instant. The pleasure devil's expression was one of astonishment and fear. She even put on an act and patted her chest, causing her voluptuous breasts to jiggle a little. She approached with light footsteps, as if she was not afraid at all. She exhaled and said, "My dear Daniel, don't be so angry. You've scared me. Didn't I help you increase your abilities and then help you take control of an army? Those officers have also sworn to be loyal to you. What else do you want? Do you want to take control of even more armies? I can help you with this. As for the reward, if you really can't do it, you can owe me first. If you can accompany me tonight, that would be even better." The pleasure devil stuck out her tongue and licked her lips. A strange smile appeared on her charming face. She then appeared next to Daniel with a flash, wrapping herself around him like a beautiful snake. Her palms caressed him gently and slid into his clothes agilely. Her petite body twisted slightly, leaving behind a series of lipstick marks on his face and neck. In the end, she even nibbled on his earlobe gently. At the same time, she said in an alluring voice, "Your words sound so righteous, but your body's reaction is so real. There's still plenty of time tonight. Let's enjoy it slowly. Oh right, I've just learned a few new techniques. Let's try them out today." Sulen was unaware of the changes that had taken place in the Kingdom of Florence. The embroidered uniform guards had just been established. Even if they possessed various professional skills, they would still need to integrate themselves into the locals before they could obtain any information. After the North Wind Dukedom was officially established, more and more people came to the North Town to do business. Caravans loaded with goods came one after another. From the outside, this caravan didn't seem to be anything special. However, if the experienced mercenaries were to take a look, they would discover that this caravan seemed to have a lot of manpower. After exiting the city gates, the merchant team continued to move forward for about 2 kilometers. "How many people are coming this time around?" A middle-aged man dressed like a merchant asked another person. Beside him, a warrior dressed like a strong warrior replied, "This time we brought 200 people. All of them are illegal residents and slaves. I heard that you can earn money by providing food in the North Town. After working for 5 years, you can even get a piece of land. Those people are all fighting to come here. We didn't even spend a single copper this time. All we did was provide them with some food. If they were in the city, they would either starve to death or be sold as slaves. How can there be such a good deal? With so many people this time, we should be able to get a trading spot. It's so hard to get a trading spot in the North Town." "That's right. Who asked him to have so many good things? I want to buy at least 50 kilograms of white sugar this time." The North Town. After a long period of construction, the North Town looked very good. It was clean and tidy with green trees and flowers. More importantly, the North Town had a lot of goods that were in high demand. After transporting people and all kinds of goods from other places to the North Town and selling them, they could buy the goods that were in high demand in the North Town. In this way, a medium-sized merchant team could make at least 10,000 kinner in profit. It was a huge profit. Although the North Town had a lot of strict laws and regulations, there were still a lot of merchants who came here to do business. Many people even spent money to buy property here after discovering the sanitation of the North Town. They were planning to live here for a long time. After we go back this time, send people to the nearby villages to recruit refugees. I'll send you some more people. There are more refugees in the villages. You don't have to pay for them, just give them food. Alright, remember to pick them. Don't take the old, the sick, or the disabled. Just take the young and strong ones who can work if they are a family. I know. We won't take in the old, the sick, or the disabled. They might not even be able to finish the journey. If they die on the way, our investment will be wasted." The man patted his chest and said, "Remember to let them eat until they are full. They will have to sleep and eat on the road. If they don't eat until they are full, they might not make it. Not only will they not make any money, they will also have to pay for the food," the merchant said to the others. Everyone nodded in agreement. After the third phase of the North Town's construction was completed, they began to send workers to Mirror Lake City. The second phase of the construction had already started. Sulen had set a target of 50,000 people for Mirror Lake City. At the same time, the fourth city was being prepared. This time, Sulen planned to build the city to the west of the North Town. The 4 cities would surround Sulen's territory. Chapter 406. The Duchy of North Wind's construction was still ongoing. From the North City to the Kingdom of Florence's Blackstone Fort, there was a 300-mile stretch of wilderness. There was not a single human city, which was very unfriendly for caravans. A small caravan without enough strength would not be able to traverse such a distance. Even for large caravans, the cost of traversing such a long stretch of wilderness was very high. It was also very dangerous. Therefore, the Duchy of North Wind's next goal was to build a new city 50 kilometers southwest of the North City. This way, not only could they expand the territory of the Duchy of North Wind, but it would also make the trade route more convenient and smooth. However, the problem that limited the Duchy of North Wind's development was still the problem of population. The most popular thing in the Duchy of North Wind was the population trade. On average, the population of the Duchy of North Wind would increase by 300 people every day. In a month, the population would increase by nearly 10,000 people. The increase in population did not cause too much of a problem for the Duchy of North Wind. For 2 years in a row, they had been reclaiming land and planting crops. Now, the food production in North Town City was enough to feed 10 times the population. In fact, this was still an undercount. There were 150,000 mu of land outside the North City. 2/3 of it was used to plant food, and the rest was used to plant other economic crops. Under the effect of the harvest altar, the potatoes in the North City could mature 3 times a year, producing more than 1,500 kilograms of potatoes. In a year, the North City's food production could reach 200,000 tons. Even so, the Duchy of North Wind did not stop reclaiming the land. By next year, the Duchy of North Wind's food production would increase again. The increase in food production brought about too many benefits. In addition to satisfying the basic needs of the people, the rest of the food was transported to the distillery and the farm. The North City's vodka production was very high. Vodka was very popular in the northern provinces, but the sales in the south were average. Every month, the North City made a lot of profits. In addition to the distillery, the rest of the food was used to develop the livestock industry. The livestock industry in the North City had moved to Centaur City. After a year of development, the livestock industry in Centaur City had developed rapidly. The number of horses in Centaur City had reached 5,000, and the number of cows and sheep had broken through 50,000. It was barely enough to meet the needs of the Duchy of North Wind. However, the number of livestock in Centaur City was still increasing. The development of the northern battlefront city was changing rapidly due to the large amount of investment. It could be said that it was the fastest developing city in the entire continent. Mirror Lake City's plan was to have a population of 50,000, and the new city they were planning to build also had a population of 50,000. In addition to the 150,000 in Northtown City and 10,000 in Centaur City, the Duchy of North Wind needed a population of 260,000, and Northtown City only had 170,000 to 180,000. Although the Beifong Principality had already been established, the population trade would be the top priority of the Beifong Principality for some time to come. By the time Sulen returned from the Desert Kingdom, it had been more than a month. Although he had been away from Northern Town for more than a month, the city hadn't been affected. Crazy and Hathaway had managed the city well. The construction of the new city in the southwest had also begun. The first batch consisted of 3,000 people. At this time, the city had already built some simple walls and some houses. The ones responsible for their safety were 500 soldiers from North Town City, including 200 spearmen, 200 archers, and 100 barbarian soldiers. After the construction of the camp was completed, Su Len would send more people to build the city. After returning to Northern Citadel, Su Luen rested for a day before going to the central square of the city. He planned to build the Martyr's Palace. Some people said that tower didn't sound nice, but now it was changed to palace. The Martyr's Palace and the Arc de Triomphe would be built as a set. Su Len planned to build both on the same central axis. The main road of North Town City would pass through the Arc de Triomphe and reach the central plaza before reaching the Martyr's Palace. When Su Len was building the city, he had reserved a lot of empty land. There was also a lot of space in the central plaza. Su Len had specially reserved a piece of land for the Martyr's Palace. After deciding to build the Martyr's Palace, the construction team from North Town City quickly arrived. The construction team had plenty of experience, so they had no problem building the basic structure of the Martyr's Palace. After Su Len gave them the blueprints of the Martyr's Palace, the construction team began construction. The construction of the Martyr's Palace required a lot of marble, and some places even required obsidian. The blueprint of the Martyr's Palace was tall and majestic. The entire structure was built with stone. There were many murals and sculptures inside the Martyr's Palace, depicting legends and battles that North Town City had experienced. After arranging the construction of the Martyr's Palace, Su Len only needed to visit it every day. Once the construction was complete, he also needed to place 2 battle soul stones inside the Martyr's Palace. Only then would the Martyr's Palace be considered complete. Without the battle soul stones, the Martyr's Palace would only be a grand hall at most. It wouldn't have any special effects. Adept Tower, Astrology Platform. After a satisfying battle, Su Len shifted into a more comfortable position. He had just gotten his fill. His fighting spirit had soared after living in the desert for more than a month. After venting, his body felt refreshed. By the time he got out of bed, it was already late in the morning. A faint fragrance lingered at the tip of Su Len's nose. Several body scents mixed together, intoxicating Su Len. For beautiful faces entered his sight. He had tormented himself quite a bit last night. Even the little succubus Chris and dragon warlock Phyllis, who had powerful physiques, were exhausted. There were still traces of last night's frenzy on their bodies. Their smooth, delicate skin and astonishing elasticity gave him the urge to do it again. Fortunately, his willpower was strong enough to let the exhausted women go. Using his strong willpower, Su Len forced himself to get up from the soft and fragrant bed. He picked up a set of neatly folded clothes from the bedside cabinet. It was a loose robe, a style that the nobles of the northern lands usually liked to wear. After putting on the clothes, Su Len patted their full, round buttocks a few times. The full moon swayed back and forth like a jelly, abnormally alluring. What are you doing? Annoying. I want to sleep some more. I'm so sleepy. Don't disturb me. I'll sleep some more. They rolled over and pulled their blankets to get out of bed. Time to wake up. Su Len couldn't help but pinch the jelly. However, the women on the bed were unwilling to get up. Su Len smiled and pretended to be happy. You don't want to get up? Since the weather is so good, let's do some morning exercises. With that, he pulled Alex up by the waist and curled his legs into a triangular stabilizing position. No, I'll get up right away. Hearing Sullen's words, Hathaway, Alex, Chris, and Phyllis instantly regained their vitality and scrambled to get up. Don't you want to do some morning exercises? A good day starts in the morning. Su Len pretended to be very regretful and said. The women rolled their eyes and got up with a frown. The breakfast in the Wizard Tower was very simple, but it was made with great care. Milk, bread, and a few pieces of delicious ham were all it took. After lunch, Su Len and Hathaway went to the laboratory, and then took out the high-grade golem he obtained from the desert ruins, this time from the storage space. A 3-meter-tall golem covered in silver-white metal appeared in the laboratory. This is the golem you encountered in the desert ruins? It looks very powerful. Hathaway's eyes lit up when she saw the golem. This kind of high-grade golem looked extraordinary at first glance, with a strong sense of science fiction in the interstellar era. Yes, this thing was very difficult to deal with in the underground ruins. If it weren't for the lack of maintenance for thousands of years and the lack of weight, it would have been very difficult to take it down. Su Len patted the golem and said, "You don't know, but this high-grade golem has a powerful equipment, the elemental fissure light blade. This thing is very destructive, and its sharpness is amazing. Ordinary weapons will break with just a touch, and in terms of sharpness alone, it has surpassed legendary weapons." Elemental fissure light blade? Are you sure? Hearing Sullen's words, Hathaway immediately asked in surprise. "Yes, I've seen it used." Hathaway said with a look of joy, "The elemental fissure light blade is a very powerful technology. Weapons made with this technology can reach the power of divine weapons, and can break the divine power field of gods and cause damage to gods." So powerful? Su Len looked surprised, and then asked a little strangely, "Then why did I feel that it was only at the legendary level when I encountered it last time?" This technology was first developed by the great arcanists to deal with the abominations. The abominations have the same divine power field as the gods. Later, when the arcanists and the gods went to war, this weapon was used to deal with the gods. When you encountered it, their energy was almost exhausted, so naturally, it was impossible to activate the strongest level. You should know that the elemental fissure light blade is a charged weapon. To reach the power of a divine weapon, it needs to be infused with all the energy of the elemental pool. As for reaching the power of killing gods, the energy required is even more powerful. Only a strategic building at the level of the floating city can support it. So strong! Su Len was slightly surprised. Fortunately, these golems had lost their abundant energy. Otherwise, if this thing had reached the level of a divine weapon, Su Len would have been in danger at that time. You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.